Welcome everybody to Service Drive Revolution. We have an exciting show for you today. Lots of amazing information. I promise you that you're going to walk away with a couple things that you can implement and get better results than you are right now. How are you doing, Jeremy?
Man, I am getting very comfortable with the uncomfortable. That's for darn sure.
What does that mean?
I had to cut my own hair, dude. I gave myself my own haircut.
Oh, I thought you were like walking around with a rock in your shoe to torture yourself or something.
Well, that's a good exercise for our service advisors on the coaching program. And Friday I had to drive an hour away to help a customer that we had just fixed her car, and then it kind of came undone, so I had to fix it. And she gave me something for our next in-studio appearance.
Glass of water?
You know what that is, right?
Is it moonshine?
Yes, sir. Here, smell it. So good. So wonderful.
What flavor of moonshine is it?
Straight. It's just clear. So what do they call it? Like Everclear?
They call that rubbing alcohol.
Dude, I am not even going to drink that right now. I got too much work to do today.
Oh, what?
I'm bringing that down, sir.
Today, Jeremy, you know what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about 3 ways to sell more with 0 sales objections. We have a special guest for that I'm really excited about. A mutual acquaintance of
great
ours,
company, by the way.
Randomly, right? Randomly, yep. We didn't know that we had that in common. Also, we're going to answer questions. Remember, everybody, when you post a question or send a question to info@chriscollinsinc.com, or you post it on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. If we see it and we read it on the show, we're going to send you some swag. We love your questions. We get more questions than we can possibly put on the show, but we do try to answer questions that we think are relevant to the time and relevant to Jeremy and I's skill set more than anything else. And remember that we have a new vault up for you at servicedriverevolution.com and some training videos that are complimentary on us. Just all we want you to do is be a part of our tribe, a part of our service society. So go to servicedriverevolution.com and sign up. We also are going to put some other fun stuff there for you coming up that Jeremy and I are going to work on.
Oh, we got a lot coming up for him.
So Jeremy, I asked the coaches this morning, so I have by far and away the most talented team of coaches.
By the way, I just have a
best looking.
I would agree, but I have a question. When am I going to get an invite to these morning sessions you have with your coaches?
Okay, bro, so here's the deal. What time did you show up for filming of the show today?
You're not going to bring that up now, are you? I was right.
What time was the call time today?
It was allegedly at 10 a.m.
Okay, well, every morning at 7 a.m. Pacific, we have a call on Zoom. You're more than welcome to join, but I'm going to guess you can't get on there and you're in a car driving somewhere with a bunch of noise. You got to be sitting 100% focused, and then I don't know that you're going to like what we're talking about every morning. I don't know. But you're more than welcome to join us. But it's at 7 a.m., which it's messed me up, so Christian and I talked about this early on, is like we want to keep everybody close. We want to make sure that everybody's head is okay, and so we should have a morning call every morning, right?
Good. And
that's all I said to Christian. And then Christian set it up, and I'm like, okay, did we set up the call? He's like, yeah, tomorrow. And I look at the calendar, 7 a.m. Like,
you know, Christian doesn't really have any concept of time. Christian
works really hard, and he's up early going, and so to him, like, it's already, for our coaches on the East Coast, it's already 10. So it makes sense, like, how Christian approached it. And honestly, I'm really grateful that we're doing it, but it butts right up against my workout. So I've started back with my trainer again, and I'm literally running from my workout to get on the Zoom at 7. But
I understand. Christian just wanted to make sure that you were on task and that you realize that every minute of your day counts, kind of like mine as well. So
Christian's one of those dudes that works out in the afternoon, which is always weird to me, because if I don't get it over with in the morning, I'm not going to work out.
I am exactly like you, yes. No, I was just alluding to a 4 p.m. call that he had set up for me, and like 4 o'clock is probably the worst time of the afternoon to set up a coaching call. Just my coaching brain shuts off at 3:00.
Well, I don't know that any time's good for you. You're always busy doing something, running around.
Let's get focused on today. What's up?
So
we
I
don't
asked,
want to focus on today.
Oh my gosh.
speaking of Christian, the Zoom hacker.
Hello, everyone. So,
Chris John.
so Chris, I wanted to just kind of tell you something that happened today on my way to the office, actually, and it caused me to get there at 6:56, 4 minutes before the call, Jeremy, just to throw that out there. So I saw my neighbor, weirdest thing, she was in the hallway, and she was having a conversation with her cat. And I sat there for a couple minutes and I watched it. Like, that was an interactive discussion. The cat and this woman were talking, and I thought, it's crazy. It's all about the coronavirus and this quarantine, and people are crazy that they think they can have conversations with their cats or other inanimate objects. So I ran back to my apartment and I told my refrigerator, and we both laughed about it.
Wait.
Our in-house hacker.
That means that he has a smart refrigerator.
Yeah, exactly. That's our Christian drive-by. I hope there's more of those during the show. It's a little levity is good for everybody, Jeremy. So I was asking the coaches this morning. I'm like, hey, we're doing the big show, the big Service Drive Revolution today. What are you guys hearing? Like, what's going on your coaching calls? Where's everybody at? And one thing, Jeremy, that I think you're going to find very interesting is they said, and kind of everybody had this experience on more than a couple calls, is that traffic is up. A lot of our clients are busier now this week than they were before the coronavirus, because like we've been saying, there's pent-up demand, right? Mm-hmm. But they're doing more numbers with less people because a lot of clients sent home techs and advisors. Now, when they were sending home techs and advisors, this is a quiz, Jeremy. I want to see how plugged in you are to things.
Hold on, let me get ready for this question.
You're gonna do a little shot of moonshine?
Yeah, here we go.
Oh my gosh. Oh, does that burn?
I'm ready.
That burns.
All right, my brain's on fire. Let's go.
You could use that as hand sanitizer.
I could sell that for $50 a bottle.
Okay. Do you think that people are sending their best techs home and their best advisors?
No.
So it kind of what has happened here is, and you should think about this if you got furloughed. So if you were an advisor and a tech and your dealership didn't panic or your shop didn't panic and shut down, but they ran on a skeleton crew, if you got laid off, you got sent home, you got dismissed, whatever it is, that's where you were on the hierarchy of value in the business. So what we're seeing is our clients are running tighter with less advisors and less techs, and they're doing bigger numbers. What's the lesson in that, Jeremy?
Well, that we should run lean and reorganize when we should. It's funny how we get lazy and add payroll when we don't
Funny
really
how we
need
keep
to.
people around that shouldn't be kept around.
Yes.
And then we need a worldwide pandemic to address things that we should have addressed before.
So, Chris, I got a question, because I was the first one furloughed from Chris Collins Inc., and I wasn't invited to these morning meetings.
Yeah.
So
Read between the lines, Jeremy.
Yet I keep showing up. What is wrong with me? That's funny.
Yeah, exactly. No, so I thought that was an interesting point, that across the board, that's what they're hearing, and what our clients are saying is, we're busier than ever, we're doing crazy numbers, but we haven't brought back some people that we were happy to see get laid off or furloughed, and we're doing great. It's better not having them. And so there's a lesson there, I think.
There's a huge lesson there, and I think it's good for dealer principals, service managers, shop owners, service advisors. Gross is gross, and it's important to focus on the net. And what we're seeing now is some businesses have a higher net profit when they're working with a leaner crew. So I think businesses are going to be more careful in how fast they just blow that back up. I think they're going to rebuild smarter and be more efficient with it. So
yeah, so you want to be careful here going into this, is a lot of you are going to experience higher volumes than you had before. You don't want to bring in so much that your systems break down. So be really, really careful about how you're booking, staffing. But a lot of you are going to need more techs. A lot of you are going to need more advisors. And I've heard from a couple clients that they're actually adding from where they were before, and it's gonna happen. And we're going into summer, which always peaks traffic. People drive more, and so you have pent up demand. You have that, and then maybe for our dealership clients, you get a couple recalls thrown in there. Woo! Time to have an amazing summer, right?
Absolutely. Put the running shoes on and get ready to run. It's time to go.
How's business in your shop?
Phenomenal. Yesterday was crazy. It's like all the nuts came out of the woodwork, and we had just a crazy busy day. And the heat's on, though. So anytime we go over 80 degrees out here in Southern California, people cannot survive without air conditioning. So our AC calls have just been through the roof. So
when you say all the nuts come out, you mean the crazy customers?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that your demographic out there, though?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I mean, couldn't you describe your demographic, your market as nuts?
Well, everybody says that's, all the sane people live in the center of the country and all the nuts and fruits roll to the edges. So that's California for you. That's what happens out here. But for people in Los Angeles, they think that, the high desert or the Inland Empire is a totally different
Just out of curiosity, how in the high desert or whatever you call it, what's the per capita meth addicts to non-meth addicts?
I think we're 3-1.
3-1 meth.
Yeah. So that means
I hear that crystal meth is good stuff.
I wouldn't know.
A lot of friends I have, they do it and then they're super successful after. It's like a gateway to success.
I don't know if I would agree with that. No? I like huffing brake cleaner instead. Put it in a shop rack and just...
You don't know a lot of people that started doing crystal meth and then their career took off?
No, I don't know anybody that did that.
Yeah, right?
That's crazy.
Who was I talking to the other day about that? And I was just thinking of that if you're trying crystal meth for the first time, you just made a life-altering decision. Yeah, because nobody does crystal meth and then things get better. I remember growing up in Seattle, and heroin was pretty readily available, especially in the music scene I was in, and Alice in Chains and a lot of bands, Mother Love Bone, practice where we practice. You could feel the heroin, like it has this evil spirit to it, kind of, but you could smell it, and you'd walk into a band room and they'd be cooking it. And you would just be like, turn around and walk out. But you'd get offered that. And I was always like, man, this never works out. I've never seen anybody that tries heroin and then their life gets better. I think
for George Bush it worked, though. He had 2 terms as president. So maybe that's one episode where using heroin.
George Bush did heroin?
Of course he did. And crystal meth as well.
I think
he did them on the same night.
What are you talking about? I think the most he did was blow.
Another conspiracy theory brought to you from Jeremy O'Neill. It's great.
No kidding. You're right. Our right-wing in-house political advisor.
Yeah, that's me. Listen to nothing that I say.
Things are picking up, Jeremy. That's what I know. It's good. It's really good. I love it that our clients are thriving, and this is going to be a great summer for a lot of us that are ready for it. You're going to be able to gain market share and really, really put up some big numbers. Should we go to the questions? The voice of God?
Just one last thought on that I have. I think this is making businesses decide to craft the business that they want. For instance, we haven't had the capacity to take on everything, so we've been focused more on the things that we want. So I think a lot of these businesses are only going to grow in the areas that they want as far as the jobs they want to work on. So.
Yeah, I would go a step further with that, and I'd say a lot of businesses are figuring out who they are.
Oh, of course, yes. Yep. Especially
because, a lot of businesses just sit there and wait for it to come instead of having to go get it, right?
Absolutely.
And character is built in times of strife, I believe.
Absolutely. I agree.
Voice of God, are you there?
The voice of God is here.
What's our first question?
The first question comes from Facebook. What's your take on the technicians that may be out of jobs right now, as most dealers are working with limited staff? Are you seeing dealers thinking about strategies to retain their technicians, or in some cases, looking to attract more techs that may be looking for other opportunities given the current circumstances?
Yeah, so that's a little bit of a loaded question because every market, every dealership, every shop is a little bit different. And so without having specific context, I would say the first thing I would go back to what I said at the top of the show about if you're being furloughed or laid off, I would do a real inventory on how much value you're adding to the shop. Because if you're one of the top technicians, they're not going to let you get too far away. They're definitely not going to want somebody to steal you. So
even if you're mediocre, I think, man, technicians are hard enough to find. They're going to bring the techs back as quickly as they can, and if they don't, there's something going on there.
Yeah, like we know clients that are hiring techs, so it isn't even in a downturn like this, technicians are what run the show. Like without techs, we can't produce labor, right? We can't put parts on vehicles either. So I don't know. I'd look in the mirror and really ask yourself, like, is this a chance for me to reinvent myself and be more of a contributor to the positive side of business, maybe work a little harder, put up some bigger numbers, really be something different than I was before if I'm expendable?
I agree.
So right there, I could see you were thinking, should I do another drink of moonshine? Not. And then you chose not to.
No.
Okay, God, what's the next one?
The next question comes from YouTube. On a recent episode, you talked about the dumbest things advisors say after getting a no. But what's the best response to say when a customer says no?
Oh, man, that's a great question.
You go first because mine's going to blow this out of the water. So you go first, Jeremy.
Okay, so let's see. We have financing. Why don't you want to do... Oh, wait, those are all the things that we don't want to say. When you get a no, you want to get into agreement with your customer. Take the sales pressure off. So for me, it's okay, no problem. We'll get this car wrapped up and get it back for you. Do you need to ride down here? And that's when the door is closing and everybody thinks that you gave up on the sale. But no, you haven't given up on the sale because you have another trick in your bag, and that trick is care for your client. And you know, as a trusted service advisor, that if you don't help the customer take care of these concerns, it's going to cost them more money down the road. So now is the time to open that door back up and ask the customer the golden question or the magic question. That magic question is this. Typically, Chris, when customers say no to repairs, it comes down to two things. They either don't have the time or they don't have what?
Money.
Money. There we go. They either don't have the time or they don't have the money. And that's what it boils down to, meaning they want their car back right now and they don't want to leave it with you, or they simply can't afford the repair. So the skilled advisor will then ask the customer, hey, Mr. Customer, I'm just curious, when it comes to addressing these areas of concern today, was it more of a budget or time concern? And then you handle the objection there. And the customer is not on guard. They're not on defensive. You've let the sales pressure go. They think you're giving them the car back. And now you just have a conversation. And the biggest sales that I've ever made in my career, Chris, have always been a conversation between friends, not salesperson to customer.
Man, that's strong, Jeremy.
It's the moonshine talking.
Okay, so my answer to this is going to be a little bit different than Jeremy's, but neither one is wrong. But I think Jeremy is better at thinking on his feet and better with comebacks. Like, he's quicker than I would be as an advisor. And so for me, if I get a no, I want to look back and say, what happened earlier on in the process that got me to no? Now, one of the biggest things that gets you to no is asking a question that can be answered with no.
The proverbial yes or no or open-ended yes, yes. You want to give the customer a choice of yes, yes. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I mean, let's say we're recommending tires and an alignment. So we did a walk around. We're petting the dog. Needs tires and an alignment. And then what I would do is I'd say, hey, the computer here is saying you're due for an alignment.
No, I just want the oil change today.
Okay. Now I got it. Now I can come back to you when I do the inspection, right?
Yes.
So you didn't say no.
I did. What do you mean I didn't say no? I did say no. I said no. I just want the oil change. No?
Not really.
So what did I say?
You said you wanted to get whatever the other stuff was done.
Yeah, I just came in for the oil change. That's a common objection that service advisors get all day long, right?
Yeah. But now I can open up the phone call with, hey, it looks, so we inspected the car and it looks like it needs some things. What are your plans for the car?
Ah, here we go. I love where you're going with this.
So now I got a way to go. I never really asked you a question that can be answered with no. And so to me, you said no, that's a priority. The oil change is a priority because it's been on your mind. You want to change the oil. It's overdue, whatever. But I have room to get to know you. Now the other thing that you'll find, and the best sales book I've ever read is The Game by Neil Strauss. And you have to go into this book understanding that it's about boys trying to pick up girls. That's really what the book is about. But the thing about the book is if you ever met Neil Strauss, he's like a short little guy that's bald, not the most attractive guy in the world, and he ends up, dating very attractive females, I guess. And it's a true thing. But the thing about that is if you can put aside the fact that it's kind of douchey and it's about guys trying to get girls, and you look at the process of how a nerdy guy has to reinvent himself, has to analyze every little thing about how he approaches somebody in a bar, how the body language matters, how your wording matters, how you have to kind of play the takeaway, and they can smell desperation on you, and all of the things that they have to go through to get, to reinvent themselves through that book is exactly what sales is about. So if you got to know, I would say that all lost sales can be traced to a mistake made earlier on in the process. And to the point that if I call on declines, and this might be something you want to have somebody else do, like two advisors could do this for each other, is you could go through a month's worth of declines, and Jeremy will call on mine and I'll call on Jeremy's, and it'll just be like, hey, this is Chris from Bulldog Motors, and I saw you were in here a couple weeks ago and we recommended brakes, and I was just curious why you didn't have them done, right? Calling on declines, you learn more about that. Now what you're going to find is that you presented it when they showed up. You're going to find that they just didn't have the money at the time. You're going to find out that they didn't understand. So whenever these surveys are done, is the number one reason people don't maintain their cars is they weren't told. And the second reason is they didn't understand, right? And so that's a part of it. The other part of it is like introducing the inspection sheet early on, so then you're the hero and not, hey, I didn't ask you to look at that. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All those little nuances, petting the dog. The customer doesn't trust you because they had to come find you. And then when they found you, you were busy and on the phone, and you wrote them up while you're doing something else, and you just treated them like another transaction. You didn't call them. They had to call you. And now you're telling them, hey, we want to spend $2,000 with us. But they don't like you. They don't trust you. And you seem disorganized, right? Think about another thing is customer pulls into a service drive that's a disaster. There's stuff laying around. It doesn't look organized. It's chaos. They got to go find you. Like, why would they want to spend money in a place like that? They want to get the minimum amount of work done on their vehicle and get out. That's what they want to do because it's not comfortable. They don't feel welcome. So a lot of sales are lost. A lot of no's are created because You didn't pet the dog. You think that it's a transaction about a car, and that car is a commodity. The value that you have as an advisor is your relationship with your customers, knowing where they work, their kids, what they do, like spending that time building rapport, making it about everything but the car. Anybody can service a car, right? So my background is dealerships. Jeremy's background is dealerships, and he owns a shop, and he teaches shops and advisors in shops. Why do 75% of customers start off? Why do 75% of customers that start off in a dealership end up going to independent shops? When the dealerships had home field advantage. Because they don't like us, they don't trust us, we take them for granted. It's like, oh, well, they have to come to us for the warranty work, so we're going to torture them. We're going to make it an experience that's right up there with going to the dentist, right? So it's all in the process. So as an advisor, you might not be able to control some of that stuff, like what the drive's like, what the process is, and all that, but it definitely matters. So, I mean, that's a long-winded answer to a simple question, but it's not simple.
No, can I add to it? Because you've got my brain just churning here. Because you're right. So much of our sales made at the initial drop-off and how...
Only if you do another shot of moonshine.
No, I'm not going to do another shot of moonshine today. I got to work after this. Man, now you just made me lose my train of thought. But here's the actual answer. And this could be a trigger phrase as a service advisor. If you're getting a lot of no's, when that customer says no, you should think about, I'm sorry. And the reason I would trigger myself to say I'm sorry, right, like snap that rubber band that we talked about last SDR, is if you're getting no's, it means you dropped the ball somewhere earlier, Mr. Service Advisor, and you need to figure that out. Because the no's should not be there. It should be a natural progression. And then essentially, Chris, what we turn into is we become financial planners, which is, okay, you're in agreement that your car needs all of this. How do I help you get to that? Because that's what you want. And then you basically work through their budget and what they can afford today with all of our different things. So
yeah, and let's be honest about this too, Jeremy, is like...
No, let's lie to them. Let's lie to them.
There's guys out there... there's guys out there that say service advisors are salespeople. I'm telling you right now, you're a service advisor that thinks that they're a salesperson is never sold. Go sell cars. Go start off the month at zero. Like the idea that, being a service advisor is the hardest job in the dealership. No, the hardest job in the dealership is probably being a salesperson. That's hard. You start off at zero, and you have to go get customers and get them to buy a car. Now, a service advisor, you get built-in traffic. I don't know too many service advisors. In fact, I don't know that I know any that go out and get their own traffic. The traffic's built in. It's coming in. Your job is to get in front of it and then make the process better. And so you're selling something that they need. They don't need to buy a new car. They have to have brakes. They have to maintain the car. If the car is broken down, they have to fix it. That's not sales.
Right.
That's just making a process bearable. That's it. So if customers are declining brakes, the brakes aren't going to grow back.
Not yet, anyways.
You're not some amazing salesperson that you got somebody to agree to something that they need. Like you're literally selling water in the desert.
Good point.
Right?
Yeah, good point.
And so the bar is so low when we talk about sales. Like sales is something else. Like we've all experienced a really good salesperson that's following up and getting you to picture yourself in this image. Like you sold real estate. That's hard. Getting somebody to picture themselves in a mortgage payment that's $10,000 a month when right now they're spending $2,000 on rent. Like that's selling, getting to,
Hey, can I share with you the best salesperson I've ever seen?
Yeah.
Okay, I was in the San Fernando Valley and I was having lunch. And so we're at this restaurant and this guy literally is walking around with Persian rugs on his shoulder and he's going door to door. And he walks, you got to imagine this restaurant's busy. This is 200 people, packed restaurant. He walks right up to the front counter, no fear, and he puts the carpet out. And she goes, no. So he puts it down, puts another one out, and then he unfolds it. And there's people trying to get in, and there's people trying to cash out. So he's holding up this whole restaurant. And he comes through this lady, and he says 120, 120. And he just starts to close. She ends up buying the rug for $60. He walked out and made a sale. And I was like, that was tenacious. That was no fear. You talk about this guy starts at zero every day. He's going to walk business to business selling these rugs that nobody wants. Like, he doesn't have a lead sheet. He doesn't have people that want to do. Everybody doesn't want to see him, is trying to push him out as fast as he can. Yet he still made a sale. That's silly, man. That was crazy.
Well, I mean, door-to-door sales is probably the hardest,
now.
right?
Well, it's outlawed now. You can't do it.
Really?
California has outlawed it. Governor Newsom has actually outlawed that.
Well, it's still hard. Like,
Can't even go stand on the beach without getting harassed now.
Do you think that that's a conspiracy?
We're not going to talk about that.
You do, don't you? Tell everybody, what's the conspiracy about
I
the
don't
beach?
have enough.
Is that the Russians? Is it Putin? Who's doing it to us?
It's not even the Russians. It's.
What are the chances Putin is meddling in the 2020 elections, Jeremy?
Only if he's needed. Only if he's needed. He's a tool. He's a torque wrench. That's what he is. He's like.
He's working for Trump?
Yeah, see, Trump has a bunch of these. These are tools, right? This is a very expensive torque wrench.
Jeremy's holding up a torque wrench.
You wouldn't use this to bang hammers in wood. It's the wrong tool. So when you need a delicate tool like this, you call it out of the closet and the tool cart and you use it.
I think you and I should do a political podcast.
We absolutely should, yes.
I would just laugh the whole time. It'd be hilarious. I mean, some of what you're saying might be true, but I don't know. I don't spend that much time on it. Okay, well, that's a long-winded answer to the no question, but I do think you...
they should go back and listen to that because there was some good training in there. I love how
for sure. Every lost sale can be traced to a mistake made earlier in the process. Yes. And if you think that way and you approach it that way and you're willing to self-analyze, you're willing to call a bunch of declines and say, hey, listen, ask questions that give you an insight, not asking questions that are a statement. How can you get better? And if that's really what you want to do, you'll get better. It's good. Okay, let's, how about a guest? Can I bring on a guest, Jeremy?
Really fired up over this. Yes, sir. Let's get it done.
So we're going to talk about 3 ways to sell more parts and labor with 0 sales objections. 0 sales objections, 0 declines. And I want to introduce everybody here to one of the founders of Sunbit, Tal. Hi, Tal. How are you doing?
Good. Nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we were talking about this on an episode before, and your name's come up from a bunch of clients. And actually, Jeremy uses you in his shop. And when we were talking, it's just fascinating what a great tool this is. I have experience having outside financing when I was running a BMW dealership, and this brings me to the very first point of what we're going to talk about today, of 3 points that I think each have their own distinct nuances, but will drive revenue in different ways. And so we used to sell a ton of accessories after the sale. So the customers would buy a 7 Series. They would opt not to put wheels on or do anything. They'd buy an X5 and they'd opt not to have the DVD player and the headrest. And then 6 months later, a year later, maybe they got a promotion, maybe they got a raise, but they would come in and then they would add wheels, they would add accessories, and we would sell a ton of accessories in the service drive by offering financing. And so how much of your business is actually financing accessories, and how does that work? How do you approach that and see that from your point of view as basically a bank, right?
Yeah. So accessories isn't the biggest part. We'll talk about the 2 other things later that happen more, the big jobs and stuff like that. But accessories for me is a want to have versus a must to have, right? So the customer wants this. Does he want to spend $1,000 today? And the way usually we see dealerships using financing in that method is basically splitting it up into as low as. So you can buy this for as low as $50 a month, which is very different than going $1,000 out of pocket. So accessories, I look at it mostly as a way to upsell and to make the customer comfortable that he can buy what he wants. Again, I'm using the word wants purposefully, and not need to go out of the whole expense today out of his pocket.
Yeah. Have you used it for that, Jeremy, or you're not selling a lot of accessories, right?
No, we're strictly general auto repair, so we're using it pretty much 100% for breakdowns and additional things that need to be done on the car, additional concerns. So, but it's been awesome.
So that's the second one is you're going to sell, bigger jobs that you normally would get declined. And you were sharing a stat with me that 72% of the customers that use Sunbit say that they wouldn't have had the repairs done if it wasn't for having that option of financing the work, right, Tal?
Yeah, and I think another stat to look at is that 40% of Americans don't have access to $400, right? Before we talk about why they use Sunbit to buy this, but think about this number. 40% of Americans, $400, and I'm not talking about this period. I'm talking 3 months ago, right?
Right.
So when that's the case, and the customer gets hit by a big repair that he knows he needs to get done, the car's not going to drive out of here without it. That's where that option comes in the most handy. And yes, 72% of them say that without this option, they wouldn't have fixed their car.
What is happening now with this coronavirus epidemic? How much do you think your business is going to increase because of the fact that people are strapped? They now have gone without paychecks for 2 weeks or a month, and then their car breaks down. How much more do you think your business is going to increase during this?
Yes, so I think it will. I think people are now going to be faced more with, do I fix my car or pay my rent? Okay, so we're very happy to offer them an option. What we see, so first of all, we do see a drop in traffic like everybody did, but relatively our drop in traffic was about 20 to 30%. And I know dealerships are seeing a bigger drop in traffic, which for me means that you have less people, but more people are using this option, right, which is a good thing. And I expect the next few months as business is starting to grow now, and we all see that, more customers are going to be thinking twice about it. How do I maintain more cash in my pocket? So we do expect to see growth, and we're seeing growth in this period.
What are the clients that you have that are using this tool of financing to sell bigger jobs? How are they doing it and having such high closing ratios? What is it that they're doing? How are the advisors presenting it? What's the winning process that you've witnessed?
So first of all, something that's surprising, and maybe Jeremy will back me up here, our average transaction is $700, which means, yes, you use it for the $1,500, but you use it for the $300 and $400 transaction. So when people say big job is a relative thing, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. It's not getting used only for last resort. Now, you asked a great question, and the funny story is you can have two dealerships, one next to each other, same car make, same brand, same product, right, and performing differently. And the biggest thing, first of all, is do you offer this, right? When a customer walks into the dealership to buy a car, they know they're going to have 6 ways to finance it. It's not that obvious when they go in to fix their car, right? So the first thing is just, Chris, do you offer to the customers? Does the customer know there's an option? So that's the number one thing. The second thing is, when do you offer, right? Because if I wait for Jeremy to say, no, thank you, I can't afford it, and then I offer it, Jeremy's on defense at this point, right? And he might just want to end that conversation, and he's not listening. When I say no, I stop listening. I don't know about you guys. So one of the things that we see is that the advisors and the dealerships that do the best with this, they relatively offer this up front, before a problem even came. And one of the best practices is, when you do the 360 inspection, just let the customer know, hey, Mr. Customer, if we find anything today, we have payment plans. That's all. You don't need to do more than that. I always tell the customer heard you, right? But then when the price comes into play, then he can go and lean on that and ask you, hey, tell me more about that payment plan, if that makes sense.
So you got to educate them up front, kind of. You got to open the door.
100%. Yeah, Jeremy, you want to?
Yeah, I think, Tal, you're absolutely right. I think, Chris, one of the things that a lot of advisors fail on with additional finances, they use it as a life ring. They try to use it to save the sale, and that's the absolute wrong time to do it. And Tal's absolutely right. When a customer says no, they said no. And basically, whether it's a reflex no or not, you're pushing against resistance, and you don't want to get in that battle with the customer. So the way that I go back to my days when I took over my very first gas station. How did I grow sales so fast? Well, I went out on the gas drive, and every customer that had an oil company card had a $700 credit line in the back of the shop. They just needed to know that we worked on cars and they could use that card to pay for the purchases. So this is something.
Hey guys, how's it going, everybody?
He did it again. Oh my gosh.
Tal, we have a Zoom hacker. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Jeremy, I've got one for you.
Okay.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Etch.
Etch who?
Bless you. Please go get tested.
How do you find your place again, Jeremy?
I want to know who's in charge of IT for Chris Collins. We've got to go fix that.
We were talking about going to Burning Man, right?
No, we're not going to Burning Man. Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about using financing as a life ring, and we don't want to use that to save the sale. You want to bring it into part of your pet the dog. When you're doing the initial intake, we're different than most traditional repair shops. We're different than most traditional dealerships. We're 100% client focused. We want to match our goals to your goals. We've got a complete program for you. We even offer affordable payments, not financing. That word financing really turns consumers off. So what I love that Sunbit has done, their team educates us. They came in and did a full day of training with our shop and our advisors. And I can't tell you, Chris, how many times we were doing role playing and that word financing kept coming back up. And they go, oh no, hold on. That's not the word you want to use. You want to use, we offer flexible payments. And the thing that I love is, look, get approved, because you got 30 days of no interest. And if you want to pay it off in 2 weeks, who cares? But at least then you have it. You don't have to tap into your rainy day fund.
Yeah.
Is that a cappuccino you're drinking?
No, just black coffee, bro. I'm not fancy like you. But I don't know that I've ever seen anybody drink more espresso and Red Bulls and Monsters all at the same time than you. I miss having you in the studio.
I'll take the crown on. I know. Let's open it back up. Newsom would be proud of us for opening up. That's all I've got to say. That's all I've got to say.
Is there anything else you guys would add to selling big jobs?
Yeah, I was listening to Jeremy, and a thought passed through my mind. One of the big things is explaining to the advisors, and Jeremy, I think you like this, that this is an amenity. It's an amenity you're offering. There's coffee in the lounge, there's a shuttle, and we have payment plans. And it's the mindset. I'm not offending Chris by letting him know that we have payment plans. And I'm not offending Jeremy by letting him know that we have coffee. And it's that mindset. So I think many times it's the mindset of the advisor, and you're giving your customer a service. You're giving an amenity, and if you treat it that way, then the conversation happens early on, right? Then the mindset is, I've got a way to help you. And I can tell you a few stories of what happens when an advisor offers it, and people, they appreciate it. So I think that's the second thing. It's offering it up front, but it's also treating it as an amenity with your body language, and I think that does wonders.
Yeah. There's a big difference between it being an amenity and it being an insult, right? So when you introduce it is crucial to that. The next one that I had, number 3 on the list, was selling more tires and maintenance. And you'd be surprised, but just like Tal was saying, I've seen it work over and over again that customers don't understand that tires are going to be $1,000. I know it working at a BMW dealership that it's unbelievable how many customers buy a 3 Series and they can't afford $2,000 for run flat tires. And they don't really do a great job of explaining to you when you buy the car. They tell you maintenance is included. You're not going to have any out-of-pocket money. But the truth of the matter is somebody goes from a Toyota Camry to a 3 Series, they wear the tires off really quick because they're excited about the performance, and they're at 20,000 miles and they need a new set of tires, and then they come in and it's like, oh, well, that's going to be $2,200 installed. And they're like, what? And like you said, the average person has $400, or the average person can't spend $400. What was that stat?
They don't have access to $400.
Yeah. So I think that we're losing maintenance sales and we're losing tire sales because we're not taking that into consideration. And I think if this is a product that you have and you introduce it up front, you have lots of ways to go later on. It isn't just big repairs. It can be when they decline tires too, that they're like, oh, well, you can get them done today. You can be safe and make payments over time. You don't have to wait until you save up a couple paychecks. Because that's really what people are doing, is they're saving up paychecks, right?
Chris, I'll pass the question. I'll ask you a question. When somebody says no, or Jeremy, why does the customer say no? You just said, hey, you need tires, and the customer says no. What reasons are they?
Well, the first one is that reflex on where they weren't expecting that they needed tires today, so you hit them out of the blue with it.
I agree with that. It's a surprise.
That wasn't the answer you were looking for, though.
I know the answer I was going to give probably isn't the answer you're looking for either. But I think when I was an advisor, I didn't get a lot of no's as an advisor, but the advisors next to me that did was because they didn't trust them. They hadn't made friends with them. They had no equity.
I tend to agree. When I fix my car and somebody recommends something, there's three things. First of all, do I trust your recommendation? And I think you're talking about equity, but Chris, do I trust you? Are you helping me? Or that's the one thing. Second thing, there is some time aspect here. Am I in a rush and I need to get home in 15 minutes?
For sure.
But the third thing is cost, right? And I always tell the advisors, Chris, if I'd recommend you a new set of tires for free, right, would you take them? Probably you would, more likely. So I think the big thing is just, we can't help with the trust factor, and the time factor is what it is, but the cost factor, which specifically for me with tires, and again, do I really need the tires? My car drove in here and it could probably drive out of here today. So it's between the trust, the cost, and the money.
Yeah. Well, I always find it interesting, an exercise I will do when I go into a dealership, Tal, is I'll go to the cashier booth and I'll just say, where are the cars waiting to be picked up? And I'll go through and I'll look at declines. Then the next day, I will call those declines after they picked up their car, and I'll just say like, hey, Tal, I saw you were in here yesterday and we recommended brakes and we're just trying to get better. I'm just curious why you didn't have it done. And most of the time, they weren't told until they showed up. Most of the time, they're like, well, I showed up and they told me. And so, a lot of it, and it comes back to what we were saying earlier about planting the seed early. A lot of it is in how we communicate and how we control the narrative, right? If I have a customer and at write-up, I tell them, hey, we're going to check out your car. If we find anything else, I'm going to let you know. I have a much better chance of selling work than if I just call them and say, hey, my tech noticed that you need this, this, and this. So like, well, I didn't ask you to look at that. Right? And so it's all in the framing and the communication. If we don't call them early enough, if they don't trust us, all of those things add up to an outcome, and it all matters. But the fact of the matter is in today's day and age, a lot of people are ashamed of the fact that they can't afford $400 or they can't afford $700 or let alone $1,200, but they want to be safe and they don't want an unforeseen breakdown, right? Jeremy talks about the stat that the average car sitting right now that's about 12 years old, so the average car on the road is 12 years old, needs 3 hours worth of work on it as it sits. So every car out there needs about $500 worth of work or so, right? As it sits right now. And it's not that people don't want to get it done. It's, they don't want that eating at their subconscious, like, hey, I hope it doesn't rain because I need tires. It's just we haven't made it convenient or we haven't presented it in a way that they can't say no. And that's what's great about this tool is that we can present things in a way where they don't say no. It's easy, right? I don't consider myself an amazing salesperson. Like, I think Jeremy is a way better salesperson, way better with his language than I am. I'm kind of an introvert, and I just want to put myself in a situation where I don't get a no without ever having to be really good at selling. And this allows you to do that.
So, and here, Chris, we had an example 2 weeks ago on this and this kind of helps advisors understand how they've got to the transaction, there's 10 points to this transaction, the appointment, the drop-off. The sales are made at the initial drop-off when the customer brings you the vehicle. So we had this Dodge Ram that was brought in, and it was misfiring. And during the write-up, we went through it, found out they had owned the truck since it was new. It's kind of a secondary vehicle, but they use it for fun and towing the boat and all that. And then, it came to the conversation, the customer threw up an objection early, which was, if this is a big repair, we're not going to fix it. We're done with the vehicle. So 2 days later, we found out it has a bad engine. And this is a $14,000 to $20,000 repair on this truck. This is a huge repair. And we offered, I basically made the presentation. He goes, there's no way I'm going to fix it. And I said, hey, we have flexible payments. Let me send you a link. Just see what, we talked about that at drop-off. See what happens. So he got approved for $2,700, which, was one of our larger approvals at this time. And here's what happened. He calls me back, and I'm like, he's not going to fix it, right? He's already told Stonewalls, we're not fixing it, we're not fixing it. He goes, hey, I'm not going to use your finance. I found the money somewhere else. I'm getting a loan over here, whatever. But he found the money somewhere else. And that was a step that got us to it. And what it was is it got him thinking of, if I was going to fix a truck, how long would I drive it? And then how am I going to pay for it? And a lot of times, if we don't have these options, customers, if they don't have $400 in their savings account, they come in and you hit them with a $3,000 or $4,000 bill, they panic. Like, planning your vacation is more of a priority than planning your financial future for most Americans, right? And when you deal with finance and you're dealing with money, most people can't handle the emotional baggage that comes with that conversation. And what do human beings do when they get stressed with emotions? They smoke pot or put something in their vein and check out, right? So this is a way, it's a door to keep that conversation open and help the customer think of the other options that they have available to them. And we have one. We've already talked about it. It's part of how we do it. And the other thing is this. I would have every advisor, have every person in your company go through it, use it. If you don't believe in the product you're offering and you don't believe the value of it, for me, when customers say, well, how much is the interest rate? I'm like, it's irrelevant. I don't care what the interest rate is. If it helps you get your car back on the road and helps you get to your job, it's worth $50,000 a year. It's worth $100,000 a year in economic value to you. So it doesn't matter what the interest rate is. Let's get your car fixed and get it back on the road. Let's move forward. So you've got to believe in it.
Out of curiosity, Tal, what percentage of the clients do you guys approve?
Yeah. No, thank you. It's a great question. I'll let Jeremy answer maybe, but it's 90%. And part of the reason that's important, if I'm an advisor, Jeremy just talked about the confidence, and I know that 9 out of 10 people will get approved. Now, some people get approved for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Some people get approved for $1,000. But hey, Chris, you just got approved for $1,000, and we can work on the job. So the 90% approval is crucial for the customer, but also for the advisor.
Yeah. Like, Chris, we've had approvals. I think our lowest approval was $140, but it helped bridge the gap to them piecing together the brake job. And it's going to be different when you look at the demographics of the certain areas. Lower income areas are going to have lower approvals and all that. But for the most part, Tal's right. It's a win. It's a big yes. And some of these customers have been declined for almost everything that they've been approved for. And this is a way for them to start to rebuild their financial life and rebuild their credit one piece at a time. And then the program gets even better. If they successfully go through the first program, the next time around, the program changes and there's more benefits for the customer and it ties them back to your shop, which is just great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Tal, anything else we left out, kind of wrapping up?
No, I think we touched the thing. I think it's going to be interesting to see how things change in the next few weeks, because, again, sometimes it's not, one of the things that's important, sometimes it's not that the customer doesn't have the money. It's just that he doesn't want to put all his cash right now here in the dealership because my son might fall, my daughter, so I don't want. So it's going to be really interesting to see the reaction and the interactions. So it's an interesting period.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely trying to hold on to cash myself, right? Because I don't know what's going to happen. So, it is interesting. Even the money from the government or whatever, I applied for it just because, it's a 4% loan, and who knows? Like, I can always just give the money right back, right? But it's an easier, lower interest loan. Well, Our clients that we have that are mutual clients, you know, said great things about you. I want everybody to understand this isn't an infomercial whatsoever, but we do at times when things are working, Jeremy and I want to provide you guys with tools that will help you sell more. And I think right now is probably the time. I would imagine you're getting a lot of calls, right, Tal? Are you turning on a lot of shops?
Yeah, I feel bad to say it in a way, but we had our best month ever from sales for signing up dealerships. So we're going to launch 230 dealerships this month, which is a massive number if you think about it.
That's huge,
right?
Man. Good job.
And it's
Don't feel
because
bad about
dealerships
that.
are preparing for what's going to happen tomorrow, you know? So again, from the usage, we see a decline like everybody else. Less people are walking into the dealership. It is what it is. But yeah, no, we're excited and we're seeing dealerships get it and it's growing. It's a good time from that perspective.
So if somebody is listening to this and they want to reach out, where do they go to get more information?
The easiest thing, reach out to sunbit.com, you know, send us a link. Somebody will call you. We'll walk you through a demo. It's pretty simple. The process is pretty simple. And yeah.
Okay, we'll put a link in the description too for everybody. But thanks, Tal, so much for coming on. It was great.
Yeah, appreciate your time, guys. Thank you so much. And Jeremy,
Thanks, Tal.
thank you for using the product. Appreciate that.
Thanks for building a great product, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, what did we learn today, Jeremy?
Wow, there's a lot, man. I mean, when customers say no, you've got to pick up the pieces and look at what you did wrong in the beginning, and it's an opportunity. And then also, man, you can't use other options as a life ring. And what a great guest we had on today. I was really excited about that.
Yeah, and get excited about the future. We're going to be busy.
It's time, absolutely.
Cool. We'll see you next time on Service Drive Revolution. Thanks for watching this episode of Service Drive Revolution. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified when we post new episodes. I'm Chris Collins, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Chris Bulldog Collins. And I'll see you again on the next episode.